It's weird how the smallest things can shake you. You spend years with someone, learning their habits, memorizing their smiles, syncing your life to theirs like two gears turning in perfect rhythm. And then 1 second, one tiny slip, and suddenly everything feels off. For me, it was a phone notification. That's all it took. It was a lazy Saturday afternoon. Emily and I were getting ready to clean the house. Well, more like pretend to clean while blasting music and procrastinating with takeout. It was our thing. We'd done it a dozen times before. She always played DJ while I did the grunt work. Vacuuming, hauling out the recycling, tackling the bathroom like I was being judged on a home improvement show. She was in the kitchen, unwrapping some leftover Thai food, and her phone was sitting on the living room table next to the Bluetooth speaker. I grabbed it to connect the playlist she always used. Some mix of acoustic indie, early 2000s pop, and random jazz stuff she insisted made cleaning cinematic. I wasn't snooping, not even a little. I wasn't looking for anything. But as I tapped to open the Bluetooth menu, a message popped up at the top of the screen. Those nights in Dallas were unforgettable. Let's do it again? Sarah, work. Just like that. A message so casual in its phrasing it could have been nothing. And yet it wasn't. The wording hit wrong. Too familiar. Too int asterisk mate. Nights plural. Let's do it again? What exactly were they doing in Dallas? I remember staring at it for a second, my thumb frozen above the screen like I'd suddenly forgotten what I was doing. A weird kind of numbness settled over me. Not panic. Not yet. Just this eerie stillness. Like the moment before a car crash. Like my brain had spotted the danger but hadn't told the rest of me to react. Then, from across the room, fast. Too fast. Emily's voice cut through the silence. Oh, wait. Babe, I got it. Her footsteps were already moving toward me, quick and light like nothing was wrong. But I noticed the way her eyes locked onto the phone in my hand. She reached me in seconds, plucking the phone out of my grip with a nervous chuckle. Whoa, sorry. Forgot I was still logged into Slack. That's just Sarah from work, she said, laughing like it was the dumbest thing ever. Total inside joke. We were in Dallas last quarter for that sales summit, and the trip was a mess. Flight delays, bad hotel food, team bonding over cheap tequila. Ugh. She wrinkled her nose like she was disgusted just thinking about it. I was still staring at her, my mind slowly rebooting. She smiled. Too wide. Like she'd rehearsed it in the mirror. You're looking at me like I committed a crime, she said, nudging my arm. I promise it's nothing. I can show you the group chat if you want. There's like 20 of us on there. We always mess around like that. It's harmless. Trust me. And then, right on cue, she changed the subject. Hey, by the way, did you remember to RSVP for your mom's thing next weekend? She texted me about it again. I told her you were probably dragging your feet. Just like that, the moment was gone. Or at least it was supposed to be. But something had already shifted inside me. I smiled. Or at least I think I did. One of those reflexive, tight-lipped smiles you make when someone tells you everything's fine, even though your gut's screaming the opposite. I nodded along. I even made some joke about how I always forget family events and she's basically my social calendar. She laughed. The music started. Our usual playlist kicked in, and we went back to cleaning, or pretending to clean. But nothing felt normal after that, because something had clicked in my brain, something I couldn't unclick. I don't know if it was the message itself or how fast she reacted, or how quickly she went from explanation to deflection. I couldn't explain it at the time, but I knew. Not proof, not yet, but something deeper. A fracture. A shift in the air. And once you feel that, you can't unfeel it. You start looking at things differently. You start noticing things you wouldn't have noticed the day before. Like how she never once left her phone on the table again. Not even when she went to the bathroom. Like how, when she texted, her thumbs moved faster than usual. Not because she was in a rush, but because she was nervous. She started wearing her hair differently, started dressing up more for work. Even on days she said she didn't have meetings. She swapped her plain work tote for that sleek leather bag she used to say was too extra for the office. She changed her perfume. Something lighter, more floral. Small things, So small they felt paranoid to notice. But I noticed them. And I noticed the way she kept bringing up Sarah in conversations for the next few days. Like she was trying to plant the name in my head, make it feel normal. Sarah cracked me up in this meeting. Sarah booked the worst hotel for our last trip. We're never letting her touch travel again. Sarah this, Sarah that. And maybe I would have believed it. Maybe I would have swallowed the story. Chalked the message up to a bad joke between coworkers and let it go. If she hadn't over-explained it. But she did. And she did it with that prepackaged smile. Like she'd already planned what she was going to say if I asked. Like she was waiting for that message to show up. That's what haunted me the most, actually. The speed. The way she smiled before I even said a word. The way she was already spinning a story as she reached for the phone. Who does that unless they've rehearsed? That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, replaying the message in my head. Those nights in Dallas were unforgettable. Let's do it again? I pictured her in some hotel room, laughing with coworkers, maybe sharing drinks, maybe sharing more. I didn't want to imagine it. But the mind goes where it wants when it smells a lie. She turned toward me in her sleep at one point and mumbled something. I couldn't make it out. I just stared at her, watching her breathe, wondering what was real and what wasn't. I hated myself for thinking that way, but I couldn't help it. A week ago, if you'd asked me how things were between us, I would have said we were solid. Not perfect, no couple is, but good. We had our routines, our Sunday grocery runs, our dumb TV shows we watched religiously. She kissed me goodbye every morning, texted me funny memes during meetings, told me I was her favorite person. And now all of it felt suspicious. The memes, the kisses, the routines. Like I was suddenly living inside someone else's version of our life. One with a script, a mask, and missing pieces I couldn't see yet. That single message had cracked something open. And what came pouring out wasn't just suspicion. It was everything I hadn't wanted to think about for months. The late nights, the weekend networking events, the sudden client dinners that popped up without notice. The way she always came back exhausted, but somehow glowing, like she'd been somewhere warm, somewhere safe, somewhere exciting. Not home, not with me. I didn't confront her again. Not right away. I played it cool, acted normal, said all the right things. But in my head, I was building a mental file. Every detail, every off comment, every shift in her tone. I didn't want to be that guy, the jealous, paranoid husband. That wasn't me. I never checked her phone. Never told her where she could or couldn't go. I prided myself on trusting her, on being the laid-back one. But the thing about trust? Once a crack forms, it spreads. You don't even have to touch it. You just watch it grow. After that message from Sarah work, things didn't go back to normal. At least not in my head. Outwardly, I played along. I smiled when she joked. I nodded when she recapped her day. I kissed her goodnight. But something behind my eyes had changed. It was like I was watching our life through a cracked window, the same shape, the same frame, but distorted now. And once that crack formed, I couldn't stop seeing through it. At first, I tried to tell myself I was being ridiculous, that I was reading too much into a dumb work text, that people joked like that all the time, especially if they were close coworkers, that Sarah could be someone she bonded with on those long business trips, where everyone's half-drunk on hotel bar martinis and team-building nonsense. But if that was the case, why lie? Why pretend it was nothing? Why say it was a group chat when the message came directly from a contact labeled Sarah work? No group chat I know looks like that. And if it were innocent, why snatch the phone like it was about to self-destruct? That's the part one couldn't shake. The panic. Emily didn't react like someone who got caught doing nothing wrong. She reacted like someone who'd rehearsed her response and hit play the moment she saw me staring too long. And then I started noticing the other things. It's funny how you can live with someone, share a bed, a life, an entire rhythm, and still miss the signs. Or maybe you don't miss them. Maybe you see them and just choose to look the other way until something forces you to stare. And once I started staring, I saw everything. Like how she started keeping her phone on silent. Always. Emily used to be the type to leave it buzzing on the counter, vibrating every time her work Slack went off. But now, not a sound. Not even during dinner. And when I asked her about it once, she shrugged and said her team was being obnoxious with notifications. Just trying to stay sane, she joked. You wouldn't believe the messages I get after 8 p.m. She laughed, but her hand never left the phone. Even as she said it, it just sat there, face down, like a stone between us. Then there were the evening meetings. She used to come home straight from work, drop her heels at the door, and collapse on the couch with that exhausted sigh. The one I secretly loved hearing because it meant she was finally home. But now, at least twice a week, she'd text me around 5:45 with some version of, running late. Client wants to push the call to 7:30. Just eat without me. Okay? Love you. First, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Her job was demanding. She worked in consulting, a world built on endless client meetings, calendar clashes, and after-hour strategy calls. I'd always admired her work ethic. But then she started coming home later. Tired, sure, but polished. And that's what got me. She'd walk through the door at 9:30, 10 p.m. and her lipstick would still be fresh. Her nails, which used to be chipped more often than not, were now always perfectly done. Deep reds, subtle neutrals, sometimes even black. A different color every week. Self-care, she said when I mentioned it one night. You know how they say to date yourself first? She smiled when she said it. That same smile. The one that looked more like armor than joy. She started dressing differently too. Not drastically, not enough that someone on the outside would clock it. But I did. She swapped her sensible work blouses for low-cut tops. Her flats became heels. Her practical tote bags got replaced by sleek designer purses I didn't even know she owned. And the clothes? There were pieces I'd never seen before. Not once. Not hanging in the closet. Not waiting to be folded. Not even in our laundry basket. A silky, wine-colored blouse that shimmered under the kitchen light. A tight black dress that hugged her like a secret. One day she came home in a fitted navy trench coat, buttoned all the way up, and I couldn't help but wonder what was underneath. But I didn't ask. I didn't want to seem jealous. Or worse, controlling. That's how they get you, I guess. That fear of seeming possessive. Of being that guy. The overbearing husband. So instead, you say nothing, and watch from the sidelines as your gut twists itself into knots. And then came the tablet thing. We shared one tablet between us. Mostly for browsing or watching stuff in bed. Nothing serious. I used it sometimes to pull up recipes while cooking. She used it for Pinterest and reading articles on work trends. One afternoon, while she was getting ready upstairs, I grabbed it off the coffee table to look up an old recipe I liked. When I opened the browser, the screen blinked for a second, and then I saw the history clearing itself. Just like that. Poof. Gone. The browser closed and reopened with a blank page. I just stared at it. Frozen. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just disappointed. It was like watching someone erase a piece of your life without warning. I didn't even say anything when she came downstairs. I just handed it back and said I'd forgotten the ingredients anyway. But from that point on, I started collecting the red flags. Silently, carefully. I didn't want to confront her. Not yet. I wasn't ready for the war that might follow. But I wasn't going to keep pretending either. I kept mental notes. Dates. Times. Patterns. I even downloaded a calendar app and started logging her evening meetings. Just to see if they lined up. They didn't. A few times, she'd say she had a meeting at 7 p.m. But her location would show she hadn't even left the house until nearly 7:30. She once claimed to be at a networking dinner, but I found a charge on our joint credit card for a boutique lingerie store that same evening, around 6:45 p.m. That was the first time I felt real rage creep in. Not at the purchase. Not even at the idea of her dressing for someone else. But at the lie. At the way she smiled and told me she was talking marketing strategy over salmon, while in reality she was buying lace. What kind of strategy was that? I started watching her more closely. Not in a creepy way. Just observing. She smiled less. Laughed less. She stopped initiating small touches, the kind you don't even think about after a while. The absent-minded rub on my back as she walked past. The hand on my chest when we watched TV. The sleepy hug from behind when I made coffee in the morning. They were gone. Quietly, like they'd packed their bags and left without a goodbye. We still had conversations, sure, but they felt mechanical. Like she was talking at me, not with me. Like her mind was somewhere else. Someone else. I found myself missing her even when she was in the same room. And yet, she never slipped. Never broke character. She was careful, deliberate, professional in her deception. Except for once. It was a Saturday morning. We were planning to visit her parents, something we did maybe every 6 weeks. She came downstairs wearing a cozy hoodie and jeans, her hair tied up in a way I always loved. It was one of those brief moments that still felt real. Familiar. She looked like the woman I used to know. But her phone buzzed on the counter. Loud. Just once. She froze, and then snatched it before I could glance down. That moment right there, that flinch, that immediate grab, it hit me harder than any message could have. That wasn't someone guarding a harmless text. That was someone protecting a secret. I didn't say a word. We got in the car. We smiled for her parents. We ate lunch, took photos, made small talk, pretended we were still the couple everyone thought we were. But something inside me had hardened. I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was certain. And that's when I realized something else. I wasn't going to get the truth from her. I'd have to go looking for it myself. And God help me, I was ready to find it. No matter what it cost me. I think there's a moment, when you're suspicious of someone you love, where you quietly pray you're wrong. As much as you want the truth, you don't want that truth. The one that confirms your worst fears, the one that burns your memory of who they were into something you don't recognize. Even as I started piecing things together, the texts, the phone habits, the meetings that didn't line up, a part of me kept hoping I was being paranoid. But eventually, suspicion stops being enough. You need proof. You need something undeniable, something you can't rationalize or excuse. And for me, that moment came 2 weeks after the phone buzzed with that first message. It happened on a Wednesday. Emily had told me she was flying out for a client meeting in Chicago. Quick overnight, nothing dramatic. She'd mentioned it casually over dinner on Monday, like it was just another bullet point in her schedule. I nodded, kept my expression neutral. I was getting good at that, not reacting, not tipping my hand. I waited until Tuesday night to make the call. Mike and I had been friends since college. We weren't close in the traditional sense anymore. We didn't grab drinks or text every week, but we had a kind of unspoken loyalty. He'd served in the army, then did private security work overseas. Eventually, he moved into corporate security and fraud investigation, the kind of guy who knew how to find people, track movements, uncover what others tried to hide. We hadn't spoken in over a year, but when I told him what was going on, he didn't hesitate. "Tell me where and when," he said. "I'll handle it." Emily's flight was supposedly out of JFK at 6:20 a.m. Wednesday morning. She packed the night before. Navy blazer, a few blouses, minimal makeup bag, just like always. She kissed me goodbye at 4:45 a.m. Coffee in one hand, suitcase in the other. "You okay?" she asked as I helped her zip her coat. "Just tired," I replied, forcing a smile. "Same," she said, pecking me on the cheek. "I'll be back tomorrow night." I stood at the door and watched her pull out of the driveway. It felt like I was watching a stranger drive away in my wife's car. Mike texted me at 6:13 a.m. "She's not going through TSA." By 6:45, he sent another message. "Didn't board. She left the airport. Heading east. I'm following." My hands were shaking as I read the words, even though I'd expected them. I sat down at the kitchen table, the one where we'd hosted friends, shared birthdays, made dumb holiday crafts together. And I stared at the wall, my coffee going cold. It wasn't a business trip. It never was. Around 10:32 a.m. Mike sent a photo. It was grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. Emily, stepping out of her car in front of a small cottage near a lake. The kind of place you rent to get away from the city. Standing beside her was a man I didn't recognize. Early to mid-40s, tall, well-dressed in a casual but expensive way. He looked comfortable. At home. She walked up to him, smiling. He touched her face. Then she kissed him. Not a hello kiss. Not a cheek kiss. The kind of kiss that comes from hours of texting, of inside jokes, of secrets. The kind that has history. I stared at the image like it belonged to someone else's life. Like I was watching a movie I didn't want to finish. "They're inside now," Mike wrote a few minutes later. "Let me know if you want video." I didn't respond right away. I just sat there, heart pounding, wondering how long she'd been doing this, wondering what else I hadn't seen, wondering if she'd ever tell me, or if she planned to keep living this lie until she got bored. I finally replied, "Yes, get it. I need to see." An hour later, he sent a short video. No sound. Just footage of her walking up the porch stairs, holding hands with this guy, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. He opened the door. She stepped inside. The door shut behind them, and that was it. I set the phone down, leaned back in my chair, and felt everything drain out of me. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger would have been easier. I was just broken. It's hard to explain the exact feeling of watching someone you love be with someone else. You'd think it would be rage, fire, a punch through the wall kind of moment. But for me, it felt like silence, like a dam breaking, not in one violent burst, but in a slow, steady collapse. It felt like the air got *Ked out of the room, like time stopped. I think a part of me died right then, not in some dramatic way but quietly, like a light switch being flicked off in a room you didn't even realize you'd left on. She came home the next evening. I had already made my decision by then. She walked through the door at 6:41 p.m., pulling her suitcase behind her like nothing had happened. She looked tired, or maybe she was just playing tired. Hard to tell anymore. She kissed me on the cheek. "Long day," she said. "Client had us running in circles." I nodded. "You hungry?" She shook her head. "Just want a shower and bed. That okay?" "Of course," I said. "You deserve it." I watched her walk upstairs, watched the woman I thought I knew disappear behind the bathroom door. And I felt nothing. Not pain. Not jealousy. Just nothing. Later that night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling. The images from Mike's video burned into my brain. Her hand in his, her smile, the way she leaned into him like she belonged there. She had someone else now. Maybe she had for months. And I had the truth. The next morning, I packed a bag while she was still asleep. Nothing dramatic, just the essentials. A week's worth of clothes. My laptop. My birth certificate, passport, social security card. The folder with the video, the *TS, the credit card logs. Proof. I didn't leave a note. I didn't slam the door. I just left. I turned off my phone, deleted all social apps, shut down my email, forwarded everything to a new address only my lawyer had access to. I transferred half of our joint savings, the half that was legally mine, and left the rest untouched. By noon, I was sitting in a lawyer's office, sliding the folder across the table. She glanced through the contents. Her eyes didn't widen. This wasn't new to her. "We'll start the paperwork today," she said. "Do you want to notify your wife yourself?" I shook my head. "No contact. Just serve her." Understood. That was it. No confrontation. No screaming match. No begging for explanations I didn't want to hear. Just silence. I thought that would make it easier. Cleaner. But nothing about it felt clean. Just necessary. That night, I checked into a small hotel a few towns over. I didn't tell anyone where I was, not even my closest friends. I needed space, not just from Emily, but from everything. From the house, from the memories, from the version of me that thought love was enough. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring out at the parking lot, thinking about all the moments that had led me here. The first date, the first time she stayed over, the trips, the fights, the nights I held her when she cried over something at work, the way she used to fall asleep with her hand resting on my chest, like it was home. And now, she was a stranger, one who had loved me once, maybe, but not anymore. Or maybe she never did. Not in the way I thought. I didn't cry. Not that night. That would come later. For now, I just sat in the quiet, trying to remember how to be a person again. A whole one. Without her. The morning I left, it was still dark out. Not just outside, inside me too. I woke up before the sun. Sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, just listening to her breathe. She was curled toward the window, the covers tangled around her like she'd spent the night chasing dreams I wasn't in. I watched her for a few minutes. Not because I was second-guessing myself, I wasn't. It was more like, I wanted to see her as a stranger one last time. That sounds harsh, I know. But it's what she had become. Familiar face, familiar body, unfamiliar soul. My bag was already packed. I'd kept it in the trunk of my car the night before, just in case I lost my nerve and tried to unpack it in the middle of the night. I never did. I showered, dressed, grabbed my wallet, keys, and that folder of evidence Mike had given me. That was it. Everything else I left behind. My clothes, my books, my memories. Let her have them. Let her wake up and wonder how something so solid could vanish without a sound. Before I stepped out, I paused in the hallway. There were a dozen photos hanging there. Trips we'd taken, weddings we'd attended, silly moments frozen in time. And I realized I couldn't look at them. Not because they hurt. Not yet, anyway. But because I didn't trust the smiles in them anymore. I didn't know who I'd been in those moments. I didn't know who she'd been. I shut the door quietly behind me. It didn't slam. It didn't echo. Just a click. Like punctuation. A full stop. I drove for hours. Nowhere specific. I just wanted distance. Between me and the house. Me and her. Me and the life that had started to rot the moment I ignored my instincts. By the time the sun was up, I was on some back road 2 towns over, sipping burnt gas station coffee, watching fog lift off a field like the world was being erased and rewritten in front of me. That's how I wanted it to feel. Like I was starting over. And in a way I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't block her number either. I wanted her to see the silence. To feel it press in on all sides. To wonder where I'd gone and when. And realize I hadn't left in that moment. I started leaving a long time ago. She just hadn't noticed. The lawyer filed the papers that afternoon. I got a confirmation email at 3:16 p.m. Service will be completed within 48 hours. You are not required to be present. I stared at the email for a long time, not moving. Then I deleted it. I didn't need reminders. I just needed space. Emily called me at 6:42 p.m. Again at 7:05. Texted at 8:11. Again at 9:17. Where are you? Is this a joke? Dan, seriously. This isn't funny. Call me. I didn't respond. She called again around midnight. I let it ring until it stopped. The next day, she started texting my friends. One of them, Matt, forwarded me a message she'd sent. Hey, have you seen Dan? He's not answering. I'm worried something's wrong. Matt didn't reply to her either. I had let him know the basics. That I was safe, that I was taking time, and that if she reached out, he should say nothing. I got you, he said. You don't owe her anything. And he was right. Because here's the thing about closure. People always think it's a conversation. An explanation. A final sit-down at some neutral cafe where you talk like adults and share your feelings and maybe, if you're lucky, get some kind of mutual understanding. But that's not closure. Closure is silence. It's disappearing before they can perform regret. It's letting them feel the weight of what they broke without giving them the chance to narrate it, rewrite it, frame it in a way that lets them sleep better at night. I wanted her to sit with it. I wanted her to come home from work, expecting the lights to be on and dinner to be in the oven, and find nothing but an empty house and a half-empty closet. I wanted her to walk into the kitchen and see the mail I hadn't picked up, my favorite coffee mug in the sink, a grocery list on the fridge with my handwriting halfway down it, and realize I was gone. Not mad, not yelling, just gone. And I got exactly what I wanted. Because by day 3, her messages changed. Dan, please, this isn't you. If I did something wrong, just tell me. I'm freaking out. Are you okay? Why are you doing this to me? That last one made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was textbook. Why are you doing this to me? As if this was about her. As if I was punishing her instead of protecting myself. That night, I turned my phone off entirely. I wouldn't turn it on again for almost 2 weeks. I rented a small cabin off a private listing. No Wi-Fi, barely any cell service. Just a fireplace, a stocked kitchen, and an old record player someone left behind. For the first time in a long time, I heard my own thoughts. At first, they were loud. Questions, mostly. When had it started? Was it just that guy at the lake? Or had there been others? Had she ever loved me? Had she checked out long ago and just forgotten to tell me? But slowly, the questions faded. Not because I found the answers, but because I stopped needing them. When someone betrays you like that, it's easy to obsess over the details. You think that if you can just understand the timeline, the reasons, the exact moment the lie began, you'll feel better. Like knowing the anatomy of the wound will stop the bleeding. It won't. All that matters is the cut. And whether you want to keep bleeding or finally start to heal. I chose healing. It didn't feel noble. It didn't feel empowering. It just felt quiet. And in that quiet, I started to remember things I'd forgotten. Like what it felt like to wake up without checking for someone else's approval. Or how much space there is in a bed when no one's stealing the covers, or stealing parts of you they no longer respect. I cooked for myself. Read books. Took walks. Wrote in a notebook with no intention of reading it later. Just words, getting out. It was boring in the best possible way. I didn't feel strong. I didn't feel like a man with a plan. I just felt still. And after living in a house filled with tension, coded words, polite lies, and unspoken betrayals, stillness felt revolutionary. After 9 days, I turned my phone back on. There were 46 missed calls from Emily, dozens of texts, one voicemail that went on for 3 minutes, just her crying, then trying to talk, then crying again. I didn't listen to the others. I deleted them all. There were a few emails, too. One titled, "Please just talk to me." Another one, "You don't understand the full story." And my favorite, "Can we fix this? Fix this." As if this was a leaky faucet. As if we just needed to have a talk. And then I'd magically forget the video of her walking into a lakeside cottage with a man who wasn't me. She still hadn't said his name. Still hadn't admitted anything. Just smoke. Just stalling. Just guilt trying to dress itself up as concern. I sent one message to my lawyer that night. Proceed with the next step. I want it finalized. That was the last piece. The final gear turned. The machine was in motion. Emily's calls slowed after that. Eventually, they stopped altogether. But that silence? That was mine. And I wore it like armor. They say time heals everything. But they never say what it does to the one who caused the wound. When I disappeared from Emily's life, I didn't expect her world to fall apart. Not because I thought she'd be okay. I didn't care enough at that point to hope for either outcome. But because I figured she had someone else. Someone waiting. Someone she'd pivot to the second I was gone. That's usually how it goes, right? Affairs don't start in a vacuum. People don't throw away years of love and trust unless they believe, even briefly, that what they're chasing is worth the wreckage. But from what I could gather, that wasn't how it played out. I never reached out. Not once. But people talk. Mutual friends, colleagues, even her sister, who'd always liked me more than she liked Emily, if we're being honest, passed things along little by little. I never asked for updates. They just came. I guess silence invites confession. 3 weeks after the divorce papers were served, Emily's boyfriend, the man from the lake house, was gone. Not just poof gone, but deliberately gone. He stopped returning her calls, according to her sister. Apparently, he had another life in another state. A daughter, even. A man who told her what she wanted to hear until she chose him, and then left her to deal with the aftermath. She traded stability for a fantasy, and the fantasy cashed out before reality could settle in. At first, she tried to keep the illusion intact. She posted photos of sunsets, coffee, inspirational quotes about self-love and growth. She started a blog about healing after toxic love, which I admit made me laugh out loud when someone sent me the link. If silence was a we *p*n, hers was performance. Carefully curated pain. Digestible sadness. The kind of grief you can filter in soft tones and crop into a square. But life doesn't stay filtered for long. I learned she'd lost her biggest client within a month. The same one I used to help her land every quarter with my connections, introductions, referrals. Not because I expected anything in return. Just because I believed in her, believed in us. But when I walked away, so did the support. And the industry noticed. She'd built a reputation, but part of that reputation came from being half of a reliable duo. Me, the calm professional with a good word for her in every room. Her, the dynamic consultant with big ideas and bigger charm. Without me, she still had charm. But charm doesn't cover for late deliverables, missed pitches, or an office-wide rumor that she'd tanked her marriage for a man who vanished. She started losing contracts. Fast. Her studio apartment came next. The house, our house, went up for sale shortly after the divorce finalized. I never fought for it. Too many ghosts. Too many shadows. But she couldn't afford the mortgage on her own. Not without the income she used to have. So it sat, stale and staged, until a young couple bought it. Wide-eyed, freshly married, full of plans. I didn't care. I'd already let go. By the time fall rolled around, she was living in a cramped, one-bedroom rental on the edge of town. A far cry from the quiet, leafy neighborhood we used to call home. I saw a picture once, in the background of an Instagram story someone else posted. She was smiling, sort of, but the kitchen behind her looked small and dim. Not what she was used to. The Audi was gone, replaced with a used sedan she hadn't driven in years. The dog Cooper was gone too. Her apartment didn't allow pets. That part almost got me. Not the car, not the apartment, not the downgraded lifestyle. But the dog. He used to sleep at her feet when she worked late. She talked to him like he understood every word. When I left, I didn't take him because she said she needed something consistent while we worked things out. I guess she assumed there would be a chapter 2. There wasn't. I heard she cried for 3 days straight when she had to give him up. The silence I left behind started to fill the spaces in her life she hadn't expected. I wasn't there to pick up the slack. I wasn't around to fix the broken printer, handle taxes, book the travel deals she never remembered to cancel. All the invisible things, the glue, the scaffolding, all of it vanished with me. She had to stand alone. And I don't think she knew how. I never felt good about her struggle. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't triumph. It was just consequence. The natural chain of events when someone burns the bridge they're still standing on. She called me one last time. This was months later, maybe 6, maybe 7. I'd changed numbers by then, but I'd kept my old work number for legal stuff. She found it. It rang while I was in line at a coffee shop. I saw the name flash on the screen. Not even her full name anymore, just E. The part of me that used to ache for her stayed still. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened to it later, it was short. Not tearful. Not manipulative. Just quiet. Hi, Dan. I know you probably won't answer, and I get it. I don't really expect anything. I just wanted to say I miss you. That's all. I miss your coffee in the morning, and the sound your keys made when you came home, and the way you'd always rest your hand on the small of my back when I was pretending not to be overwhelmed. I miss the quiet. I made a mess of everything, and I know that. I just hope you're okay. That's all. I deleted the message. Not out of spite, but because I didn't need it. She had already said everything she needed to say, not in words, but in choices. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need validation. I already had peace. And peace, I learned, comes at a cost. Not to the one who leaves, but to the one who gambled and lost. They think you'll come back. That time will blur the details. That memory is soft enough to forgive betrayal once enough sunsets pass. But peace only comes when you stop needing the other person to hurt. And I had stopped needing that. She was already hurting enough. Not because I wished it on her, but because she had built her life around a version of herself that no longer existed. One that lived in comfort, surrounded by trust she didn't have to earn, protected by someone she thought would never leave. When I walked away, when I disappeared without a speech or a slammed door. I took away the illusion that she could always come back. And that was the real consequence. Not the loneliness, not the apartment, not the silence in her bed. It was the realization that there wouldn't be a scene, or a second chance, or a long conversation at some cafe where we'd cry and say we still meant something to each other. She didn't get closure, because she didn't deserve it. All she got was the mirror, and the life that looked back. 6 months later, I checked the mailbox at my old warehouse, the one I rarely used anymore, and found an envelope with her handwriting. No return address, just my name. Inside was a short letter. She wrote that she still brewed coffee for two, that some nights she reached for me in her sleep, that the silence in her apartment had my shape. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't beg me back. She just admitted she broke something she couldn't fix. I stood there for a long time, holding the letter like it might burn me. Then I slid it back into the envelope, placed it in the trash, and walked away. She had poured her heart onto the page, and I gave her what she had earned. Silence. 3 years later, at a college reunion in New Jersey, I showed up with Megan, warm, honest, easy laughter. A life partner, not a project. We were mid-conversation when I saw her, Emily, standing alone near the drink table. She froze. Her smile trembled. Her eyes said everything. Regret, pain, realization. Tears welled. She tried to hold herself together. I didn't walk over. I didn't nod. I didn't speak. I just squeezed Megan's hand a little tighter and kept walking. That was the last chapter, and I didn't have to write a single word of it.